Today my adventure begins right here in Statesville, North Carolina. This we're starting to vlog off the day is called Martin Luther King Park. It's an absolutely beautiful day today. Really looking forward to walking around the town, looking at some storefronts, some of the memories that I have from this place. And just in case you didn't know, I grew up here in Statesville. Statesville is actually my hometown where I grew up. Used to actually come to this very park when I was a kid. Walk along this bank right over here behind me and feed the ducks with my mom and dad. We used to always take our old bread that we didn't use and take over here and feed the ducks. I always loved that as a child. I loved animals in general, but it's kind of wild all these years later. The ducks are still hanging out on the banks here. I don't know if anybody really feeds them anymore. I don't know if that's frowned upon these days, but I used to walk right along that grassy knoll, that little grassy area right over there, and feed ducks, and that was like a fun thing to do back in the day. Absolutely loved this park. So much memories. But back in those days, the park was not called Martin Luther King Park. I think that's something that changed in the last 5 years or so. Back in the day, it was always called Lakewood Park. And this little overhang right here behind me, right here where these slides are for the kiddos, right behind there, had a few birthday parties over there when I was a kid, probably about 5, 6, 7 years old. My birthday's in springtime, so it was like the perfect time of year to come out here and get you a birthday cake. My mom used to go uptown. There was a bakery up there, mom and pop bakery, long been gone. It was called the Home Bakery. We're going to look at where I think I remember where the location used to be. It's not there anymore, but I think the storefront is still there. I'll reference that when we get there. But all my birthday cakes, probably for the first 12 years of my life. Not saying I had one when I was 1 or 2, but you know, when I was old enough to eat birthday cake, that's where my birthday cakes actually come from. So probably at least 10 years out of my life, that's where they come from. So I have a lot of great memories of getting those birthday cakes. Some of the birthday cakes was the Dukes of Hazzard. I think one of them might have been Mr. T, because I was a fan of the TV show The A-Team. I know some of you guys probably remember that, right? And what else I have? I think I had in 1989 or 1990, one of the last birthday cakes I had from there was actually a Charlotte Hornet birthday cake, because the Hornets were new. They was brand new. We had us a brand new NBA basketball team. And I think one of my last birthday cakes I actually got from there was a Charlotte Hornet birthday cake, and it had Hugo the Hornet on it. That was their mascot, and he was called Hugo the Hornet because of Hurricane Hugo that hit like the year before, and it done a lot of damage, knocked down a bunch of the trees and stuff all around this area. It really did a lot of damage in the Statesville, Charlotte area, even though we're like 250 miles inland. It was still a Category 1 storm. By the time it hit here, it had winds of well over 100 miles an hour gusts, not sustained. But yeah, a lot of good memories. Even though that one wasn't my favorite memory. I did get to stay home from school for a few days. But all that being said, this is the park. We're in Statesville. Let's go ahead and get into it. I've rambled along enough. I can ramble later. Let's go ramble somewhere else now. All right, welcome to downtown Statesville. As I'm looking down Broad Street, this is actually called West Broad Street, and off in the distance there you see the front of a building with some pillars, and that is actually Mitchell Community College here in town. And then right here, this beautiful church is called Broad Street United Methodist Church. Very beautiful. So one thing I'm noticing right away with some changes, this corner building right here, back in the day used to be called Cafe and Billiards, and you used to go upstairs, do a little partying, little slam dancing and things like that. They had like some live bands that they would put up there, but now it's actually called Payne Chiropractor. It's actually a chiropractor offices now, so that's definitely a big difference. This right here is called Peking Restaurant. It's actually a Chinese restaurant. This has been around forever. Fun fact, when I started working one of my new jobs back in probably the late 90s, about 1997, Some of me and my co-workers on our lunch breaks, we would send somebody over here to pick up some Chinese food every now and then because it was really, really cheap. And we would get sky and chicken and the pork fried rice. I got pretty much the same thing every single time. So kind of cool to be back and see this restaurant is still open in business. So right here is something very new. This is called Foxy Roxy's Pizza, available by the slice. Man, I'm a big fan of that. Right here is their store hours. Come check them out. They open at 4 o'clock pretty much every day, except on Mondays they are closed. And I'm really digging the dog right there. He looks pretty happy eating that slice, and it is New York style pizza, so I'm a big fan of that. And you know what? I'm happy just like that puppy right there when I'm eating pizza, I can tell you that for sure. And right here is another really historic building right here on Broad Street, and that is the United States Post Office and Courthouse building. So back in the day, even though this is some kind of a courthouse now, back in the day this was just the Statesville Post Office. I used to have a great uncle. He used to work for this very post office and deliver mail. He was a mail carrier. He was retired from the Air Force, and that's where he used to go get in his little white Jeep, go around and deliver mail. And matter of fact, the woman who used to watch me while my mom worked during the summer months when we was out of school, he used to come by and he would always give me and my friends candy. So really cool memory right there. All right, so I made it over here to the corner of West Broad Street and South Meeting Street. And we're actually going to walk down South Meeting Street now because I want to show you this really cool Coca-Cola mural right here on the side of this building. Now, this is really good shape because they've recently just touched this thing up. You can tell it is super bright, but I love finding these Coca-Cola murals in these old towns, even if they're touched up. Now, I'm a big fan of ghost signs. I like the really old stuff too, but this is pretty epic also. All right, I made my way over here to the corner of South Meeting Street and Court Street. And this is a really neat looking building right here, and it actually says County Jail right up there above that little archway as you walk into the building. That is pretty awesome. I didn't even know this was the county jail at one time, but it is a really neat looking building. I love the style of the decor of how they designed a lot of the building, the brick. Really awesome looking. But something else that I read about this plot of land right here where this county jail supposedly sits, this might used to be in the old courthouse area, and maybe that's why they called this Court Street, as we see right here. And the cool thing about that is the last man to be hung here in the town of Statesville was a man by the name of Tom Dooley. And they actually wrote a song about him. It was called Tom Dooley. Hang down your head, Tom Dooley. Hang down your head and cry. Crazy song. I remember that song like when I was a kid. And speaking of the jail, not to get off topic, but that definitely looks like jail cells to me. Look at those windows up there. That is pretty rad. They've kept this place intact with the bars on the windows and stuff all these years. Yeah, that's pretty cool. But supposedly Tom Dooley, when he was tried for murder, it was probably right here in this vicinity, this area. I'm gonna make a whole nother video about that another day and kind of get into it, take you to his burial site, which is in Wilkes County, which is where he's from. I think he was from a little area called Ferguson. And I've been to his grave before, and it's not easy to find. You can find it on Google Maps, but I will tell you this, you better be ready to hit on some back roads to get to Tom Dooley's grave. And it's not in no cemetery, it's actually off a little side road next to a field, and it's kind of just on a little knoll. You can't see it from the road. You have to walk up in the woods. And the reason I want to do it sooner than later is because I don't want to wait till it's too warm here when a lot of the copperheads and snakes and things like that are already moving around pretty heavy. So we're going to try to get into that sooner than later. Okay, let's continue on to the uptown area and look at some more storefronts. So this next stop is the Vance Hotel here in Statesville. This is a historical landmark here in town. It's been around many, many years. But this alleyway right here has a little movie history. And no, I'm not talking about Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, even though it kind of favors it, doesn't it? With the fire escape and everything. But no, we're not going to go that cool, but we are going to say George Clooney was in town here, and he made a movie here in Statesville called Leatherheads, and he actually jumped out of this like window. You see, like, there's 4 openings right here. It's not even windows, actually. It's like doorways on each one of these little openings, and he's being chased in the movie, him and Renee Zellweger, and they get right here and they kind of lock the door, and there's a guy like in this window that's wanting to like commit suicide or something. He's wanting to end it, and his mom's down here, and there's police officers down here, and they got this big old like springboard looking thing right here for him to catch the guy. And George Clooney and them, they find the opportunity like, hey, we can get out of here, we can jump if he ain't going to jump. So they say, yeah, we don't want to live neither, and they actually jump out of that, about, I think it's that 3rd opening up. They actually jumped down here. Now in the movie, I'm sure that they did not actually jump. They had stunt doubles or whatnot. But if you watch that movie, you will see a ladder on this side. You can see the ladder's been removed, and you can see these little light fixtures right here up the side of the wall, all the way up to the top. So pretty cool to know that George Clooney, a big star like that, somebody that made Ocean's 11, and he was on the show ER and all that type of stuff, he found his way in this little southern town of Statesville, North Carolina, filmed Leatherheads. Pretty cool little Hollywood history right here in Statesville. Man, this place right here brings back some memories. City Pawn and Gun right here has been here forever. This pawn store has been around for a lot of years. And fun fact, I actually bought my first guitar right here at City Pawn. It was a Epiphone Les Paul. I think it was a Cherry Sunburst like design on it. I was a big Kiss fan, and Ace Frehley's he didn't have an Epiphone. He actually had a real Gibson, but I couldn't afford that, so I had to go to the pawn shop, and I found me an Epiphone standard Les Paul right there, and that was the guitar that I learned how to play. And I didn't have anybody to give me lessons, so what I did, I went out and I bought some tablature books. There was no internet at that time, and I would sit there and I would put my Live 1 and a Live 2 album on, and I would listen to that music and look at the tablature and try to learn. Like, I knew how tablature worked as far as where you put your fingers on the fretboards and stuff, and I had such a good time learning that music. And after about a year or so of doing that stuff, I could play lick for lick, at least rhythm, with Paul Stanley. I could do his parts. I couldn't do all the Ace's parts. I was not a lead guitarist by no means, but I could at least play the music to where you could understand what I was playing, you know. But that was kind of the background of how I learned how to play guitar. Right there, my first guitar, Les Paul, out of that place. Pretty awesome. And this is really cool right here. This is the Statesville Historical Collection Building. And check out this old picture right here of the clock tower here in the square of Statesville, which we're going to see that. Let me get my head out of the way. We're going to see this clock right here momentarily. And that's really a very interesting and kind of a frightening picture when you see how high up the clock tower is, and these 3 gentlemen are just standing right there on the front fascia of it. Earlier I was talking about Tom Dooley, and right here is the kind of the movie poster. It says Playhouse now showing, and right here it says The Legend of Tom Dooley. So right there is what the movie poster looked like about that movie, the Tom Dooley story. This is something definitely new that I don't remember. This is called Andrea's Ice Cream and Sweet Shop. Got some sweet treats in there. Looks like they got some donuts. That cute little ice cream cone out here, that's pretty cool. It says we are pet friendly, which I think is a win-win, because you got to be pet friendly when you have Snoopy and you have Woodchuck, Snoopy's little pal from Peanuts, out here. Oh my goodness, this is a very nostalgic moment. Wooten Jewelers has been here forever. And it was actually, Wooten Jewelers even had a store in the Statesville Mall, or they call it the Signal Hill Mall. And they are still open here in the downtown area, it looks like. And they are ready for St. Patrick's Day. So right here on Broad Street, look at these old buildings. Look at the architecture. You can really see the age in some of these old storefronts here in town. So this storefront right here, this is called Kimbrell's Furniture. And Kimbrell's has been around a really long time. I don't know if it's always been right here in Statesville, but anytime you see a Kimbrell's, it's pretty impressive because a lot of them's been shut down over the years because, you know, the furniture, you know, really took a hit in the 90s when NAFTA come into play. And because a lot of these furniture companies went to places like Mexico and they went elsewhere for cheaper labor. Used to be a lot of furniture companies here in North Carolina, especially up around High Point, back around Hickory area and places like that, but a lot of them shut down. And a lot of these Kimbrell stores slowly started fading away, or furniture stores in a large part started fading away. And a lot of your bigger stores like Ashley Furniture and Rooms to Go, they kind of took center stage and used their, oh, we got a classic car right there, goes a dang Mustang Cobra. Did you see that? Holy crap. That was so funny. I was sitting here talking about Kimbrell's and I could see the cars going by in the reflection when I seen that old Cobra. And I'm not a big fan of that old Cobra, but still, when you see one of those out driving around, it's not all rusted and corroded looking, that was really in good shape. I think the best one I've ever seen has been in a museum. But I had to turn around and look at that. Sorry I got off my Kimbrell story, but yeah, you know, the furniture companies in this area, a lot of your mom and pop places and like locally owned places like Kimbrell's was, even though it was kind of bigger, it was started in like Columbia, South Carolina by 3 men. They just invested $3,000 a piece to start this company up, and over the years more and more of them has closed down. I've noticed that in some of the small town vlogs that I've done when I go to these little places. You will see an old abandoned building and it'll have a K and an M, and some of the lettering will be left behind, but that's about it. So but Statesville still has a Kimbrell's. All right, so this building right here is called Griffin Insurance. Used to be a Wachovia bank, and this is my first bank where I started banking at, back when it was Wachovia. Now I left that, you know, I don't know, almost 30 years ago, since it was a Wachovia, since I banked there. I changed banks at that time, but this plot of land right here, at one time, I've heard from my mom and other people in my family that's a little bit older than I am, has a little bit more memory of some of this older stuff. This used to be, I think, where the Playhouse Theater was located here in Statesville. And that's where they would show some movies and shows and stuff like that. Maybe a concert or two, who knows? And I've even heard rumors before, don't know how true it is, that maybe even the king of rock and roll himself, Elvis Presley, before he got to be a megastar, maybe he came right there to Playhouse at some point and played a concert. Can't verify that, but you know how people are in these little small towns. They got their little stories, and I don't really have no way, but I just kind of believe it. So if they say it, maybe it's true. I don't know, but I thought that was a cool story. A little small town like this, Elvis Presley coming here, play a rock and roll concert. I did see some proof it wasn't Elvis Presley come to this town, but Michael Jordan, when he played at Carolina, he was a Tar Heel back in the early 80s. The Tar Heels actually came to Statesville to the senior high school, and they had like a little pickup game, like for show, you know, to the local community. My great aunt actually got pictures of MJ there, and he still had hair. This is before he was a big superstar. He was still in college. He ain't even won like a national championship at that time. He might even been a freshman. So it's pretty wild to have those kind of pictures in your family and get to see something so cool like that. He even did a slam dunk from the free throw line, she said, that day, and she got some pictures of him drawing it out on, like touching the free throw line like I'm on a jump, and then she had a picture of him actually dunking the ball. So that was pretty epic. And right here is Broad Street Burgers Company, and I can smell the cow. I can smell the meat right now. It said guaranteed delicious Broad Street Burgers. Bet that is a happening little place. And right next to that is Center Stage. Really cool place. I can't remember which store it was, but it might have been this place. This one right here called Center Stage, or it might have been Broad Street. One of these back in the day was actually a Broadway Movies. And we used to come up here and rent movies, take them to the house. You could rent video games back then. I know a lot of people find that hard to believe, but yeah, people used to go to movie stores and rent movies and rent video games, and especially on the weekends. That was just a thing that you did through the 90s and even the late 80s when it probably really kicked off and got big. Something I noticed right here on South Center Street, look at these cool little areas they got where you can like play checkers. They got them kind of built into the table. It's really awesome looking. This place here is pretty neat. This is called Red Buffalo Brewing Company, and I'm going to say that they're Buffalo Bills fans here at this location, because that is a very nice Buffalo Bill flag. And look at this little dude right here. That's a dog. That is not a mannequin. He is real. Check him out. He's just hanging out in there. That's their guard dog. That is for real. All right, so I made my way up here to the square here in the downtown area. This is South Center Street, West Broad Street, where they meet, intersect right here. And this is the town square. And this is a really cool location. I can remember back when I was a kid, they used to have the Christmas parades and stuff up here, and they used to actually have a Christmas tree that was suspended over this square right here. It was somehow attached to all four of these buildings, which this building over here has been removed here recently. There used to be a building, it was about the same size and height of this old drugstore building right over here, where the clock is actually located. So earlier we got to see, a picture of those three gentlemen standing up there at the clock, and now that there is the very clock that they were standing in front of. So pretty awesome that the clock is still there to this very day. Doesn't look to be keeping the correct time, because according to that clock it's about 7:47. So the clock is not working. So this store right here is definitely something I never remember seeing in the past. This is called Lake Mountain Coffee. And then right next to that, we have this gaming store right here. It's called FTW Gaming. And look at all the Funko Pops they have for sale in there. That is a bunch of Funko stuff. It says you can play video games here. They got Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, $8 per hour monthly video game tournaments. So big time gaming going on here in the downtown area here in Statesville. All right, my friends, I made it to a very popular location here in the downtown area. This place is called Sub Express, and they really got some really good like pasta salad in there. They're kind of specialized. I mean, their subs are good too, but their pasta salad is like legendary. I mean, I love their pasta salad here. And there was a part of me, for whatever reason, I thought this location was the old home bakery. And I think I'm wrong, because Sub Express, when I went inside and I looked at some of their old pictures they have, Sub Express has been in Statesville for like 40 years. So the time period does not add up. So I went in to R. Greger Jewelers, and I asked somebody in there, very bluntly, I said, how many years you lived here? And he was like, my whole life. And I'm like, good. I said, you remember the home baker? And he's like, yeah, man, I remember. And I said, where was that located at? And he said, it's right up here next to Delaney. So we're walking there now, and I'm going to show you where the home bakery used to be. It was my favorite place. I loved their cakes when I was a kid. And this is the one that he's talking about, because he said the window or something has been broken out, but this right here was supposedly the home bakery back in the 80s. This is where all of their pastries, they had like cupcakes, and they made birthday cakes and stuff like that. And I just have so many good memories of this location, if this is indeed it. And boy, he wasn't lying, because look at all that glass down there where they broke it out and everything. You can kind of see on the inside of this place. Don't know what it was, here recently, but back in the day, it was the home bakery. And I definitely wanted to know that. I can't wait to show my mom this video where I can tell her I know where the home bakery is now. We had a long conversation about it, and you know what? We were both wrong, because we both thought it was in the Sub Express location, and it was not. I think it was right there, because that's where the gentleman told me it was at, so I'm going to take his word for it. Right across from the Upper Room, which is a Christian event center right across the way there. It was established back in 1998. Somebody has got a really cool rendering of this like horse. And it's just made with all kinds of like pieces of metal. They just welded it all together. I mean, they used the chains as the tail of the horse. That is pretty awesome right here. It says Williamston artist Jonathan Bowling actually designed this thing. Pretty cool. He even used a shovel. Check that out. How weird is this? But in a good way. You know, look at that clutch right there. Clutch plate off a car. Right here on this leg, we have one of those old bars that you would use to curl with. That's why it's like, right here's where your hands would go on both sides and you would do your curls. And look, it's the old school kind, maybe from the 80s or the 90s, when you used to buy them and you actually threaded your weights on. That way they wouldn't fall off. So really cool artistic rendition of a horse. I gotta say, that's pretty awesome looking. All right, so that will pretty much conclude my downtown walk around tour of Statesville. And now we're gonna head on over to the old Signal Hill Mall, which I've made several videos about the Signal Hill Mall over the years. And the last one I made was about 1.5 years ago, and I'm glad I did it because shortly after I made that vlog, they ended up shutting down the Signal Hill Mall due to, you know, I think some of the ceiling actually finally collapsing in. And if you would like to see that video, I will definitely put a link in the description below. My last tour around Signal Hill right before it collapsed, the roof collapsed, and they shut it down for good, I believe. So I've not been over here since then. So I'm gonna ride over here real quick and check out the Signal Hill Mall area and see what's happening, see if we can look inside. Fun fact, this little shopping area right here that I'm pulling down into, but boy, look at that pothole right there. This area right here used to be known as Newtown, and it is a lot of abandonment going on here. This right here, this JR Factory Outlets, this was one of my first real jobs where I had to pay taxes. You know, something other than mowing yards and getting up hay and things like that, or picking up eggs. This right here was like my first job. And this used to be, before it was a JR's, it was a Rose's store. And, you know, there's still a few Roses, you know, in and around the state of North Carolina. I've seen them here and there. But this was a Rose's store. And before it was Rose's, I think it was a King. And I think it was just, I think King was another type of a discount store. But that's what this used to be right here. And now I'm going to go over here and show you where the old Newtown Theater used to thrive. This was just it was called the Newtown Twin Theater. It's right over here in this location. And don't pay no attention to my my hood, because there's a lot of pollen out today. So you can wash it one day and the next day, guess what? You got more pollen. But right there it is. You can still, it says Newtown Theater right there. And they have had to board this thing up multiple times, because I think sometimes homeless people come down here and like take refuge inside of the old theater. But one of these days they're going to knock all this stuff down. I don't know when. And right over here to the left, I've documented this stuff in the past. That's why I'm not really getting out of the car to really get into it. But right over there, that little red patch on the ground right there, that's where the old pizza's parlor used to be. It's called Village Inn. And they still have a couple Village Inns here in town left. But that right there was the original one that I remember from throughout my childhood and stuff like that. And this here was the old Mexican restaurant that was really good back in the day. It was called El Tio's. As you can see, it still says El Tio's right there on the side of the building. That looks pretty wild, man. It really has that 80s flair to it, doesn't it? Especially with that red right there. And you don't see people doing stuff like that no more when they're designing and decorating buildings. It's got those old neon lights up there that's still there after all these years. This thing's been closed down for, I don't know, 20 years or more probably. All right, I made my way over here to the front side of Belk. And as you can see, there's actually people inside shopping right now. So Belk is still open. And I think Belk being open, Belk actually owns its own building. So the mall, even though they're connected, the mall owner has nothing to do with Belk from what I remember reading about this whole story. And Belk is what has slowed down the implosion of this mall and them starting over or just getting rid of it altogether, because this is a lot of land that's just been sitting here for decades with not a lot of movement, nothing really going on here at the old Signal Hill Mall. And it's kind of sad, man, just to watch this old place just rot away, because I have so many good memories of being at the Signal Hill Mall as a kid growing up, playing in the playhouse, the arcade inside, playing my Mortal Kombat, my NBA Jam, and all that good stuff. And earlier in the video, you know, I was talking about the old Woolworth. Well, this building down here was a Sears. The last thing it was in there was a Sears. But before it was Sears, I think it was called Hills. But before it was a Hills, that was when it was a Woolworth. And that all went down. I think Woolworth moved into this building back in the mid 80s. And the only reason I really know that, once again, is a video game reference. When my first Nintendo Entertainment System, not a Super Nintendo, but the very first Nintendo, mine came out of that Woolworth right there in that spot. So, nice little memory to have. I loved some Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. Let me tell you, I was hooked. It was on, man. I love that game. So now I'm just going to walk up here, take a peek in. They do have a private property, no trespassing sign up now. And it says right here that Signal Hill Mall is closed throughout. And my goodness, look at how different it looks on the inside. All the walls have been removed inside the Signal Hill Mall now. Doesn't that looks eerie? Holy crap, that looks so different. The only thing is left right there in the middle is the fountain. You can see the skylight where the water fountain used to be. I mean, man, that is unbelievable. All right, that will pretty much do it for me today here in Statesville, North Carolina. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, walking around my hometown. It was really nice to be back in Statesville and walk the streets, and it really amazed me how much the town has actually changed over the last 15 or so years since I walked the streets like that. Now, I have been here in town from time to time. I've actually made 2 separate videos about the Signal Hill Mall and done a walkthrough there as it deteriorated over the years. And, you know, I was at a wedding about 1.5 years ago in the uptown Statesville area. So I have been here, but that was the first time I've actually walked the streets as I did today and really look at all the storefronts and stuff. So really had a good time. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time, friends, I'm the Hitchhiking Yeti, and I will see you in my next adventure. Y'all stay safe, and I hope to see you all again very, very soon. And I guess people do what I do when I come here. I just kind of drive around and look at things. But you see it a lot. You come by this mall, you will see just people driving by, probably reminiscing just as I did. Like, man, that's a shame. That place just fell by the wayside like that. The old IHOP building right there, I ate many pancakes out of that spot.